Judy, there seems to be some movement now in your husband's case. What can you tell us? What's the latest?
The latest is we heard yesterday from Josefina Vidal, who's works for the foreign ministry in Cuba, that she now says that Cuba is willing to sit down and start negotiations with the United States. So that was big news. Of course, we're very cautiously optimistic. The Cubans have told us things before which didn't work out.
Now, is it on their side, or is our State Department just unwilling to talk to them?
My understanding is that the State Department is unwilling to talk if there are preconceived or preset ideas on the table. So that, I think, has stopped the State Department from the last time the Cubans invited them to sit down. The State Department said not with these preconceived notions that the Cubans were making.
Well, fill us in a little bit for our viewers who are unfamiliar with this case. Your husband's been in a Cuban prison for over 2 years now. Tell us what led up to that and what's happened since then.
Alan was working on a U.S.A.I.D, United States Agency for International Development project, helping to improve intranet and internet access to the Jewish community in Havana, not just Havana, in Cuba. He was on this project, and on his, I believe it was 5th trip, was arrested by the Cubans, accusing him of bringing in illegal equipment, all of which he had a customs receipt for.
And obviously some of the equipment he had and the work he was doing, they weren't too happy about that, I'm sure.
No, they weren't. Cuba does not have very much access to the internet or satellite or any of those types of technology.
But obviously your husband knew the risk, did he not, going in, that this equipment would not be readily acceptable on the part of the Cuban Communist government?
You know, he actually didn't. He was never told by the U.S. government that this is against Cuban law. He found that out too late, obviously. No one from the U.S. government gave him any training in terms of this might be risky or this is what you do if you think you're in trouble. So he really didn't have an idea that it was that serious.
Now, Judy, you haven't had a lot of support from the American Jewish community, have you? Why do you think that is?
Oh, actually, I think we've had an incredible amount of support. We've had petitions with hundreds, well, thousands and thousands of signatures. The Jewish community is sponsoring a weekly vigil in front of the Cuban intersection. There are all kinds of things on the intranet talking about Alan. So there has been a great deal, as far as I'm concerned, a great deal of Jewish support.
I mean, what I can't understand is why didn't they just confiscate the equipment and send him packing and send him home?
Because this is Cuba, and Alan was making a perfect scapegoat for Cuba to be able to say, look how bad the Americans are. The reason I really believe that is at the trial, the first hour that the prosecutor was talking, he didn't even mention Alan's name. He went through all the terrible things that the United States does to Cuba. So I think that this was just prime time for them to arrest Alan and then make the United States look bad.
Now, were you down there recently? Were you able to meet with him?
I met with him 3 times in 3 days.
So how's he doing? What's his health like?
His health was very startling to me when I saw him. It was skin and bones. I hate the expression concentration camp victim, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. He also has some kind of growth on his shoulder. He's got very bad arthritis. It's very difficult for him to stand up from a sitting position. So, and he has some other health issues as well.
What can our viewers do? What can they do to help, and what do you expect will happen now?
Well, the main thing we can do to help is within the next week, actually, get in touch with your senators and congressmen, in particular the senators. There's a letter that's going around the Senate right now, being signed by as many senators, hopefully as possible, across the aisle, to send to President Raul to asking him to release Alan. So that's the most important thing right now is, I think, contacting senators.
How about pressure on our own government, the State Department, the Obama administration, to negotiate his release?
That too would be very helpful. To be honest, I'm very disappointed in what's going on with the State Department and the White House. I feel they could be putting on much more pressure, working much harder, not refusing negotiations. I mean, you need to sit down and start somewhere. And whether they think Cuba has preconceived ideas or not, you can't just refuse to sit down. It's got to start somewhere. So yes, I think putting pressure on the government is very important.
Okay, we'll urge our viewers to get involved, and we'll certainly be praying for your husband and your family. God bless you, and thank you, Judy.
Okay, thanks.